What if the movie sucks?
Ship has entered the Tatooine system as you commanded.
Prepare my shuttle.
As you wish.
Stay with the ship. Not stepped foot on this planet in over 20 years.
It was the will of the Force that brought you here.
Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn. It was foretold that you were hidden here. Our long-awaited meeting has come at last, my wise old friend.
I'm glad I could give you something to look at, but something far worse is after you.
You know what I have come for. The last original theatrical print of The Phantom Menace. I know you have it. And now you shall hand it over to the Lucasfilm Empire to be incinerated.
The Lucasfilm Empire rose from our creator after he betrayed those who stood by him, surrendering his power to those of corruption and greed, like he once was. He himself becoming one with the dark side.
I will show you the true power of the dark side.
You will try, but you cannot deny the truth of who you really are.
I am the dark side. How is this possible?
The Force is full of surprises, my friend.
Now you must fall, as all Jedi must.
You cannot win. If you strike me down, you will stray further from what you have become. Can you do that? Can you live knowing that you will never be Anakin Skywalker?
I have a bad feeling about this.
I don't sense anything.
It's not about the mission, Master. It's something elsewhere. Elusive. As if millions of fans suddenly cried out in excitement and were suddenly disappointed.
Do not be settled by your own anxieties, BigJackFilms. Keep your concentration here and now where it belongs.
But Master Yoda says I should be mindful of criticism.
But not at the expense of the moment. Always be mindful of the ever-living Force, my young Padawan.
Yes, Master. Wait! Why do you suddenly sound like Liam Neeson?
Well, honestly, I think it just might be the script. Who wrote this dialogue?
Lawrence Kasdan?
J.J. Abrams?
George?
Intruder alert! Stop the intruder! Stop the human!
Roger. Ah, great! The chicken bots have arrived.
Care for some Star Wars collectible KFC?
Boy, you just read my mind.
Target the Jedi!
So long.
This door has a doubling, so it's gonna be a bit longer to crack open.
Dude, we're freaking Jedi. How hard could this be?
Last door's not easy to open.
Oh, for Lucas' sakes, fuck this.
When did the Jedi ever try that before?
Oh, now you think of that? Alright, you Asian stereotype. There's no negotiating yourself out of this one. Any last words?
Oh, Yusa!
God damn it! Fucking Jar Jar!
You saw all of the big doo-doo from the buses!
Christ, first you shit on a whole movie and now you're just scraping the shit skins inside of the toilet bowl!
Dude, calm down.
No! I will not have an unfunny, stereotypical cartoon CGI piece of shit in my Star Wars reviews. For that matter, why couldn't this just be the Phantom Menace? And on top of that, how the hell is he running the Trade Federation?
Yusa have a bad mouses. Misa took over when feds were abandoned. Boss's orders, Misa!
Well, we will have to take him in for questioning.
Alright, mark him up. Yusa got me. It's Wookie!
This is ruining the franchise more than Ryan Johnson! And the holiday special and Lumpy and Mala and Itchy and Harvey Korman! Ah!
Are you done?
Nope! Snooky! Confederate! Coca-Cola! Marketable!
Whipster! I should have applied for that position at Mr. Roger Rogers' neighborhood.
George Lucas! Dick-sucking! Merchandising! Ah!
Bruh.
Trust me! He He was better off left on the cutting room floor. The hell? Chancellor Kennedy!
Have you liberated Naboo as requested?
The Federation has surrendered. It turns out that Gungan prequel pest was what was left of them.
Good work. Master Yoda wishes to contact you. We've just received a distress file from Tatooine that the Jedi Council has assigned to you.
Patch it through the Falcon. We'll be on our way. Let's go.
I know, I said I wasn't going to rent this piece of junk again. Hey, Chewie wanted a double. Well, let's hope these monks are paying us good, otherwise they'll be hell to pay.
A successful mission, this was.
Master Yoda.
In command of Naboo, the Republic succeeds. No more. The Federation is. Now, to more concerning matters, we must proceed.
What is it the Council has sent me, Master Yoda?
BigJackFilms, young you still are. Yet wise, since the Great War of long ago. Yes, in urgent matter, in the plane of Jupiter, there is. In vain, the Empire has. Have the princess held captive, they do.
Wait, the princess is in danger?
Harm her, they will not. Until a treaty is signed, safe she shall be. Recover it, you and your master must. Yet for you, young critic, time, it is. For you to take on the past history of the Force.
Master Yoda, I am grateful you wish for me to review the past history of the saga. But many others have taken this task far greater than I ever could. And quite frankly, I feel like I'd be beating a dead tauntaun.
Yes, many have. But for you, I see, different your opinion is.
Master?
Remember my teachings, you must unlearn what you have learned. For many, crappy past, it is. Beginning, disappointing, middle, the worst, and good, the ending is. But see a difference in you, I do.
You're right, Master. I am ready to take this trial.
Send you the beginning, I have. Review it, you will.
Yes, Master. I won't fail you. Master, tell Josh to set a course for the Jupiter system. Send word to all of our allies to meet us there.
Yep, okay.
Well, guys, this has been a long time coming, but this is it. As part of our next set of Star Wars Saga Reviews, I will be tackling one of the worst cinematic disappointments in film history. This, of course, being 1999's Star Wars
Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Thank you, comic book guy. The prequel trilogy as a whole takes place 32 years before the original Star Wars film, Episode 4, A New Hope, as we begin our story with the greedy Trade Federation organizing a blockade around the planet Naboo. So, the Galactic Republic sends 2 Jedi with Master Qui-Gon Jinn, played by Liam Neeson, and his young apprentice Obi-Wan Kenobi, played by Ewan McGregor, to negotiate the end of the blockade. However, the head of the Viceroy, Newt Gunray, is ordered to kill the Jedi and invade Naboo under the orders of the Dark Lord of the Sith with the deceiving Darth Sidious. But the Jedi escape, and Qui-Gon saves the life of the clumsy Gungan Jar Binks, played by Ahmed Best. The outcast native takes the Jedi to his submerged city, and the Gungan leader, Boss Nass, who gives them transportation to head to the capital and warn the royal Queen Amidala, played by Natalie Portman, about the invasion. Despite her already being captured by the Federation army, the Jedi rescue the Queen and her court as they flee in a spacecraft that is damaged when they cross the blockade. They land on the desert planet Tatooine as Qui-Gon goes with Jar Jar, the droid R2-D2, played by Kenny Baker, and the Queen's assistant Padme to seek the necessary part for the spacecraft at the close-by town of Mos Espa. When circumstances go awry in buying a part, a slave boy, Anakin Skywalker, played by Jake Lloyd, offers to dispute a race with his pod to help our heroes in acquiring the parts. Qui-Gon, however, feels the Force is unusually strong in the boy, and is determined to find a way to train him to become a Jedi Knight. Will the boy win the race and have his dream come true? What will happen to Naboo? Will Queen Amidala be capable to convince the politicians to release her planet from the Trade Federation? Or will the Sith find a way to wipe them out with a valiant and lethal dueling apprentice? So, after 2.5 decades since its release, with how so many people bashed the hell out of this movie about the same time, from its hype to the days of YouTube, you might be thinking I'll be giving Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, the same treatment. Well, the answer, much like the film and its expectations, is no.
What?
This might shock some people online, but believe it or not, I actually don't hate this movie. In fact, I might like it. Or, if I'm gonna go there, I kinda love this movie.
This is outrageous!
Yeah, got you there, didn't I? Especially after I teased this for so damn long.
Ah, Poojo!
Most of you thought I'd give this movie the hate that all have given it. But ever since its debate in 1999, I've never hated The Phantom Menace as much as the fans have.
Then you're not a real Star Wars fan, BigJackFilms!
Ugh, it's the most angriest and entitled of all fanboys, Typey McTurd.
That's Master Jedi 101 Mr. Typey McTurd to you, BigJackFilms!
Not so fast, Typey! I got here first! Me! Larry Manipik Jr.!
Oh please, you have a router slower than a hyperdrive generator on an AOL chat log.
The Church of the Jedi will scream hearsay for that, you turd!
Star Wars is not a religion! You are not solving the problem, you're making it worse! In fact, on the contrary, and I'll say it again, y'all haven't been happy since the special editions!
Hey, the special editions are better! They are true to George Lucas' original vision!
George's original vision? You guys were complaining about this in 1997!
No, we didn't.
Lucas should release the unaltered versions!
No! It should be the enhanced versions forever! I need to get these updates with the latest Blu-ray and Disney Plus set.
So do you like or hate what world? Religion? What is your brain capacity?
Level 20 Bard.
Over 9,000!
150,000 XP points on Jedi Power Battles!
Why do I even bother trying to diagnose you people? And it's funny that I'm not alone here, and why I feel waiting on reviewing this trilogy was warranted despite all our production problems. We've seen a major shift in the franchise since the mouse bought it, and how something that was so hated has now become more loved and respected. And that's one of many fascinating aspects of Episode 1, but I should explain why I like this movie. And that being the hype. At the time, I was 7 years old, and adored the original trilogy on the THX and Special Edition VHS tapes. Hell, my first copies were bootleg THX prints that my parents recorded using 2 VCRs.
Like they're mating.
Back then, I didn't have access to the internet, so I had no idea a new Star Wars movie, let alone a prequel, was in the works at the time. Hell, the term prequel wasn't as common as it is today. My first exposure to Episode 1 was, of course, the media hype on television and the trailers that dominated theaters in the fall-winter of 1998. I was as shocked as a 7-year-old could be that a new Star Wars movie was happening, and I, like most of the world's population, fell into the hype.
I'm a big fan of Star Wars, sure. I've seen all of them, and I'll see this one too.
While all the kids in my age group were trading Pokemon cards or Crazy Bones, yeah, remember those? I was grabbing whatever I could for Episode 1. I tried recording as much of the media blitz as I could to catch any glimpses of new scenes. Hell, some people would pay just to go see a movie, just to see the trailer for The Phantom Menace and then walk out of the theater. That's a hype that hasn't been seen since Tim Burton's Batman released its first trailer back in the winter of '88. That hyped, people!
You actually paid to go in to see a movie just to see the trailer and then you left?
Yes. Because it's an awesome 2.5 minutes.
My parents bought me most of the toys that summer and Christmas seasons, which I still own the majority of to this day. We went to all the fast food stops promoting merchandise and even threw a Star Wars party. An honest-to-God party dedicated to the anticipation of Episode 1. It was really that crazy. Newspapers were counting the days. It brought me my first new LEGO sets, not to mention the need for the awesome new lightsaber toys. Even getting the Jedi role-playing kit, you get the picture. The hype for this movie was literally out of this world.
Even Jesus was less hype.
And for me, the hype paid off big time as a kid. This movie had everything I wanted in a Star Wars prequel, filled with outstanding special effects, amazing non-stop action set pieces, and a story to set up the trilogy we know today, with a brilliant cast of characters, both portraying the young of old and new exciting additions to the franchise. The first being our lead, Qui-Gon Jinn, who I always thought was pretty damn cool. He acts as both wise beyond his years and a man who seems to truly find balance in the Force, not following neither the Jedi or Sith. Fans referred to this as being a gray Jedi, which I can totally get behind, and Liam Neeson is the perfect candidate for it. He was already an established star in Hollywood, winning the Best Actor role at the Oscars for Steven Spielberg's Schindler's List. But for me, I already knew him as the R-rated Scottish swashbuckler Rob Roy, and thought he was the perfect type to play a Jedi Knight. Hell, watch him in Rob Roy and you could see the prototypes of what was to come in both acting and sword fighting. I know a lot of people felt that him and Obi-Wan should have been one and the same, but I felt it was needed to see how a young Jedi Padawan became who he would be in Episode 4, and it all stems from easily the most skilled character in the film. And Liam Neeson really did a good job as playing Obi-Wan's mentor and passing the torch from his masterhood to him.
I foresee he will become a great Jedi Knight.
But for me, the character I followed as the driving force of the movie was, of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It was probably due to the recognizability, but seeing a younger version of the Jedi we know and love from the original trilogy was a lot easier to follow to bridge the gap, and it's cool to see him slowly evolve to that, starting with his youthful energy as a young student, proving his skills to his master and the Jedi Council.
Obi-Wan is ready.
I am ready to face the trials.
I love seeing not only his smirky, smart-ass remarks,
why do I sense we've picked up another pathetic life form?
But also his more passive-aggressive energy and draw into combat with a lightsaber. It's cool to see an Obi-Wan this cocky to a degree, showing off and still learning as he goes along. Ewan McGregor really pulled off the first try onwards, given he had only found success as an actor in a few niche movies at the time, and he impressed everyone on this film, especially in his stage combat, doing most of his stunts himself.
He is headstrong, and he has much to learn of the living force, but he is capable.
But, in mirror contrast to the original trilogy, we of course need our damsel to save, and that comes in the form of Queen Amidala of Naboo. A kind of opposite to Leia, if not more similar. She leaves a lot more of a commanding royal presence as a leader of worlds, but will defend her people when necessary. While hiding a lot of emotions, you can tell that her mind is constantly in motion, planning out each event, not just for herself, but for the people around her. And Natalie Portman really did a good job here, given this was her first real big break movie, as well as Keira Knightley.
I am Queen Amidala.
Yeah, no joke, that's Keira Knightley as her decoy in a few scenes.
I come before you in peace.
Hide the realm.
But back to Natalie. She really showcases the same vibe as Carrie Fisher did before, and we see the slow steps of what a powerful leader she could become. Maybe even more than a queen in the future.
I will not condone a course of action that will lead us to war.
However, one character's future is already set in stone with the origins of the saga's peak character, Anakin Skywalker. Which I owe a huge apology to on something I've got to finally come out on. I should wait till we get to the next character, but this needs to be addressed right away before we go any further. As you all know from arguably my review of Jurassic Park back in 2015, 10 years ago, my god, my running gag on dunking Jake Lloyd's performance in this movie.
Are you an angel?
Ugh. A tradition I kept till shamefully my review of Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. And a tradition I need to honestly stop now. Back then, it was a trend to rip into this kid, and little did we all know what Jake went through out of all involved in the public backlash of this movie.
Jake Lloyd, what a Go to hell!
And it was easily the most ruthless and disgusting from reactions. Because of the outcry of hate to Episode 1, Jake Lloyd left the film industry and tried to live a normal life out of the spotlight. But in school, it was hell. Bullies ripped him for being in Star Wars, and even nerds ripped into him further for ruining Star Wars, which caused Jake Lloyd severe mental health issues, which no human being, let alone a child, should endure. And contributing to that myself, I feel I need to take a step forward and express my deepest shame and regret. I won't remove the jokes for cultural reflection and as part of my consequences, and I'd hope that those in the fandom at some point do the same more and more. So to Jake Lloyd, Ahmed Best, and any of the cast and crew of this trilogy who received so much hatred and bullying, jokes or intent, if you're watching this on behalf of the Star Wars fandom, and from me personally, I am truly and deeply sorry, and I hope this helps to heal the wounds that many, including myself, inflicted. Back to the review. To be honest, I never found Jake Lloyd as bad as most made him out to be. If anything, directing and writing did play a part, but Jake has proven prior to be a decent child actor, starting with the prior holiday Fox film, Jingle All the Way. And even there, he did a good job with what he was given, and I'd say the same for Episode 1. He's meant to be the POV for the kids in the audience, and to a degree, being a little younger than him when the movie came out, I felt that when he was on screen. This character is a tough role to pull off, and Jake not only did great, but gave it his own spin with a more realistic way a kid would be in his age. A little quieter, can show off when needed, and does have a lot of emotional weight to carry. In fact, this role was such an undertaking that there was a total of 3,000 auditions before Jake was finally cast. There was another candidate, an actor, Devin Michael, who almost got the role given his acting skills were much more defined, and according to the filmmakers, was easier to work with.
Jake.
It's just not trained. And this one just hits the beats.
What is going to be with the production a lot faster? Right.
There's so many
and the other one I have to just...
There's so many...
But George felt something more in Jake's performance, and felt taking him under his wing, directing him as an actor, would get Jake out of his shyness on set. As for Devin, while he at times felt shame since he didn't get the role, the burnt toast theory was in his favor and felt a lot of sympathy and empathy for Jake in the aftermath of the film's release. We may not know what his portrayal of Anakin would have been, but Jake did ultimately feel right in hindsight, and his innocence is what let us see the boy he would become down the line. I'll talk more about Anakin's character come the next two films, but needless to say, Jake left a good impact for the character, bringing us into a much deeper connection when he travels to his destiny to become a Jedi Knight. We also see the consequences of this with Shmi Skywalker, Anakin's mother, played wonderfully by Pernilla August. She, in many ways, acts as one of the key elements of Anakin's character, adding that sense of kindness and heart that, if not presented, would have made Anakin much more of a darker character. I think it was important to see Anakin's mother as a way to show later on his kindness and good heart throughout the rest of the trilogy, making him the tragic hero we know and love. And the bond between mother and son in this movie is wonderfully well done. The acting is fantastic, and there have been times I've teared up a little bit watching some of their scenes together. I think Pernilla really helped Jake Lloyd throughout the film, acting as a real mother to him on set and in the film itself, and she did wonderful here. Yeah, sure, doesn't have much presence later in the trilogy, especially when we get to Episode 2, but it's cool to see essentially where Anakin came from, despite the complications I'll talk about later. And I think the same can be said for the actor of our next character in the computer-animated Jar Binks. I know all of you are wanting me to really bash at Jar Jar, especially given what I just did a few minutes ago. Yeah, he's still dead and buried, but I hate to say it, guys, I just got that out of the way. I have a very love-hate relationship with this character. This one character became the biggest hit piece of the franchise. You think I'd hate this cartoon rabbit thing to the brink of destruction? I like Jar Binks!
How dare you like Jar Jar? What? He's annoying!
Let me at least try to explain why. I don't say this out of apology. Nothing against Ahmed Best. But since I was a kid, felt Jar Jar was entertaining. To me, he was the C-3PO of the new trilogy, making the actual C-3PO in this movie seem pretty redundant.
I find that Jar Jar creature to be a little odd.
But yes, as much as he has his annoying moments, he can be rather funny. The voice, the movement of the character, the cartoon-esque escapades, the slapstick with him actually kind of works. It's well known that accusations of Jar Jar was a stereotype of old, outdated entertainment values, but Lucas, from what I've gathered behind the scenes, was more so inspired by the comedy timings of Charlie Chaplin or Buster Keaton back in the silent era.
How did they do that?
Namely in their walk of clumsy nature, an iconic trait of Jar Jar as a whole. On top of that, there is a relatability with the character that Ahmed Best perfectly described in interviews.
The character of Jar Jar, he's banished from his world because he was clumsy. He just didn't fit in with the other Gungans. And I think everybody remembers when they were that kid who just didn't fit in. And I know I was that weird kid who didn't fit into any group. I think all those kids and all those, people who feel like they don't fit in will identify with Jar Jar.
And it's cool to see that kind of relevance included for Star Wars. Something the most hateful fans have to test to this day.
How did you like him? Again, I feel bad for Ahmed Best and how he was treated, but it was good to see him headstrong and not let the dark side get to him. Especially that kind that actually turned himself around Star Wars, reprising the role of Jar Jar many times, and even playing a Jedi in the Mandalorian series. Love him or hate him, Jar Jar represents a lot of things, a need to fit in, and eventual redemption both in and out of character for me at least. So yeah, if you were expecting me to rip this guy apart, I ain't doing that. I already did that at the start of the video, and I just figured I'd get it off my chest. I fucking love Jar Jar, and I'll still love him to this day. And speaking of the new 3PO, let's talk about the two main returning cast members from the original trilogy.
R2-D2, a pleasure to meet you.
In the other movies, you weren't sure how C-3PO and R2-D2 met, and in this one, you see it.
Who asked? Who the fuck asked?
Yep, that's Anthony Daniels and Kenny Baker back as C-3PO and R2-D2 for another 3 films of adventure, making it a tradition for the entire Skywalker saga. And it's cool to see these guys get to be in almost every movie. I kinda understand R2-D2 being here and how he's introduced here, making some sense.
Thank you, R2-D2.
There's nothing.
But 3PO? Yeah, to be honest, I never understood this reason, especially later on in the original trilogy when Vader can never recognize him.
And as a child, I built C-3PO.
Huh? This odd storytelling decision has been criticized and mocked countless times.
Good afternoon, Lord Vader. May I just say that...
Leave us.
You're not my maker, you can't say that.
But you're wrong, 3PO. I am your maker.
Oh dear, that's not true! That's impossible!
Search your circuits, you know it to be true.
No!
I'm with most people where if you had to have 3PO in here, he should have been at least by the side of the Queen, if anything. But what's also cool is how we are also seeing more protocol droids in this universe, with the likes of TC-14, voiced by Lindsay Duncan.
The ambassadors are Jedi Knights, I believe.
Reminding us how big the world is, much like what we saw in Empire Strikes Back, and even briefly in the original film. And while Anthony Daniels does good with what he's given, him and Kenny are mostly replaced by the latest technology.
I'll just have to run him over and wreck it, otherwise he'll put me out of business.
3PO was done with Japanese puppetry on green screen, while R2-D2 was mostly done in higher quality RC technology. This was right at the cusp of the droid builders fan clubs that dominated the 2000s onwards. They may not have much screen time in camera as they did before, but it was nice to see Lucas didn't sell them out.
Sell me?
And now we have a few
two middle ground characters who don't really seem to have a side, but do make quite the impression in the Star Wars universe, both new cast and the return of some original trilogy veterans, with Ian McDiarmid back as a younger version of Palpatine. While we know what he will ultimately become, it's interesting to see Lucas give us a taste of the Palpatine before his evil ways. That is, what we see being his evil ways. Yes, I know a lot of the stuff in between, guys, and Ian McDiarmid throughout this entire trilogy looks like he's having a blast playing this role again, as he did with Return of the Jedi. Hell, even Pizza Hut was glad to see him again.
Pizza Hut will be transformed into the planet Coruscant, home of the Imperial Senate.
The Imperial Senate will no longer be of any concern to us.
Which, side note, with the massive spree of merchandise for this movie, Pepsi actually paid a whopping $4 billion to market the film in fast food chains with Pizza Hut, KFC, and Taco Bell, taking the promotion for Episode 1. A huge deal for the time that did end up paying off big time with way too much merchandise to count.
A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
Everyone, we've got to see the Queen.
Mr. Jar Binks come for comic relief.
Emergency landing on Tatooine.
No! Pod racing is riddled, Mom.
Love you, Padme. Oh no, Darth Maul!
But back to the only scene to be chewed with Palpatine. I will bring up more when we get to Episode 3, but it's just cool to see Ian back, acting more natural and kinder to our fellow heroes, especially with Anakin.
We will watch your career with great interest.
Hell, it's kinda hard to be the Emperor yet when your main election opponent is General fucking Zod of the planet Krypton!
May I present Supreme Chancellor Valorum?
You will bow down before me!
Yep, that's Terrence Stamp as Supreme Chancellor Valorum in a brief part, along with other sci-fi greats like Flash Gordon's own Brian Bless as Boss Nass.
Stand by, my Gungans! Die!
E.T. makes a cameo as revenge on Steven Spielberg for putting Yoda in E.T.
I got a Yoda costume and didn't tell George Lucas I was doing this and dressed someone up as Yoda. Yoda's going in the other direction, but E.T. recognizes Yoda because, of course, you know, the galaxy is a rather small place among filmmakers.
I hadn't seen E.T. finished, and when we finally finished, it had a screening up here for ILM, and I went to the screening, and well, Steve had warned me that there was something special in it for me.
George was sitting right next to me, and when Yoda came on the screen, George gave me a little nudge with his arm. I guess it's his way of saying that was cool.
There's even a prop cameo from 2001: A Space Odyssey in there, according to producer Rick McCallum on the commentary in Watto's Junkyard. Speaking of, another great comedic character added to the film is the slivering Toydarian Watto, played by Andy Succumbe, who, while more villainous in a way given his job as a slave owner and scam artist, at times can be seen with a little heart for the boy under his wings.
I have a greater faith in the boss. Is a credit to your race.
I always liked Watto in both design and how he was done in CGI effects. Many did complain of a more Jewish or Italian stereotype, much like Jar Jar was for other ethnicity groups, but again, I didn't see it. And neither did Watto with what currently happened to him. Watto to me is simple but effective, with some minor hints of a kinder heart. Though less can be said about the likes of Sebulba, one of the main baddies of the movie. While the undefeated cheating champion of the desert races becomes a main rivalry for Anakin, both as a villainous tough alien and a cheating rat in the race, reminding me of characters like Dick Dastardly in Wacky Races.
Bad guy coming through!
He's a really unique design, acting as sort of a weird combination of a kangaroo and a frog, with the genetic coding of Steve Buscemi in the face. He was voiced by Lewis McLeod, who also dubbed over a lot of other characters, and even works today on a lot of the current Star Wars games, playing many aliens and villains.
Yoko to banta pudu.
Speaking of, we gotta talk about the main threat of this movie. With the main heroes out of the way, who represents the dark side in this early chapter? Well, while not the Galactic Empire levels of bad, the Trade Federation, led by Newt Gunray, is a nice introduction to the stretched arm of the Sith, and actor Salas Carson, who also plays Jedi Master Ki-Adi-Mundi, don't at me about how old he is. All of you fans have been arguing over a literal dickhead!
A penis!
He does great in that mechanical mask operated by Stuart Freeborn's effects groups, going back to their work on the original trilogy. And yes, much like Jar Jar and Watto, there was some controversy with these characters, but enough has been said about that. But again, this was not George's intention.
These are aliens. How in the world you could take an orange amphibian and say that he's a Jamaican? I mean, even the idea of taking his ears and calling them dreadlocks is kind of a strange stretch as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's completely absurd.
While being a puppet for both evil and practical, Newt does make for an interesting slithering villain along with his massive army of battle droids. The new stormtroopers, as George would say.
Oh, this is our new stormtrooper.
But in a way, he's the old model, replaced by Star Wars being the new stormtrooper.
That's great. It's going to be great.
That's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
That's going to be great.
And yeah, while little on the weak side, I freaking love the battle droids. These guys may be a tad ineffective, but safety in numbers is where these guys thrive. The sheer amount on the screen for the early 90s CGI is absolutely incredible, and this technology in creating massive amounts of armies would be used in full effect on the next two films, among other movies, as the appropriately named software Massive, a technical piece that Peter Jackson would later use to full potential on The Lord of the Rings a few years later. But here, Lucas used them well in creating the armies of battles for the planet of Naboo, mostly in the battle droids themselves. I love the simple combat-driven designs of these things, and their personalities as a group acting like a flock of chickens, and even helped with their more comedic side with their simple robotic voice.
That doesn't compute. You're under arrest.
Iconic as the stormtroopers themselves, in my opinion.
Take over.
Now, while we bring up Darth Sidious more in episode 2 and 3, let's finally talk about the lead villain of this movie with the character that has left quite the impression on the franchise, both in the film and after, with the iconic Sith Lord.
This is my apprentice, Darth Maul.
While dubbed for the sake of what George said was a better voice for him by Peter Safran, I can't really pronounce it right now.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
Ray Park owns this role, not just being a professional martial artist, but also an incredible bowman, kendo fighter, and also shows much intimidation in his eyes with all the makeup applied to him. Visually, Darth Maul is one of the most iconic villains of the saga as the almost devil incarnate, taking up training to use the dark side with so much intimidating fashion and stature, ready to destroy the Jedi and show off his skills. Now, yes, I am aware that he didn't have many lines in this film, and granted, he makes a great reprisal in the Clone Wars series, but this character needs more time to grow in a movie. Even Lucas recognized this.
I want to try something else.
You can see so much hatred coming out of Maul as he fuels with pride in his lust to hunt down the Jedi for his master, like prey to a vicious predator, not helped by his amazing double-bladed lightsaber. Or as Nick calls it, a saber staff. God damn, that thing is cool! And at that moment, everyone wanted a toy of that thing. Myself included. Darth Maul to this day is one of the most interesting villains in the Star Wars universe, and everyone still wants him to have his own movie, which I hope Ray Park gets his chance someday to fully unleash Maul for the fans. If not, there actually is an amazing Darth Maul fan film, which I consider canon, that all of you should check out.
I think we all have a bit of a dark side in us, and so I just try and bring that out myself when I play the character.
The rest of the cast leave an impact, but not as much as the rest. Mostly two in the iconic Jedi Temple with both Yoda and Mace Windu, played by Frank Oz and Samuel L. Jackson. I want to talk about Mace more in episode 2, but I will say it's always cool to see Sam Jackson in movies, and in Star Wars.
A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
And Mace left quite an impression for audiences back at the turn of the century. Sam created so much swagger and chill on the set, and I can't blame him given he was always a fan of the series.
I remember actually going to the very first screening of Star Wars in New York City. All of a sudden, I was there with, Yoda, and this is one of those kind of dream come true kind of things.
As for Master Yoda, once again it's nice to see him in a few younger years of his life, especially in still being a puppet for episode 1, and once again Frank Oz did a phenomenal job on the puppetry. Despite the fact that they CGI'd all that effort come the more common releases of the film. With so many characters to juggle in this movie, it makes you wonder how this episode came about as it did. Well, I guess the best place to start is on November 1st, 1994. After nearly 15 years taking a break from films and directing, George Lucas finally was to give the fans the next 3 chapters of the Star Wars saga in writing the prequel trilogy. What was the main holdup since Return of the Jedi? Well, for one, George being a parent and producer on other projects, but mainly waiting for technology to finally catch up on where he could finally achieve his full vision.
Yeah, there's action in it. There's some action set pieces and things like that, but it's more people betraying people. You're not knowing quite what's going on. You know, you don't know who the good guys are or who the bad guys are. When you put it all together, it'll be a complete story.
George told us he'll start the screenplay on part 1 within 6 months, but before production can begin, he has to oversee a 4th Indiana Jones.
Son of a bitch. That time came in 1993, when his special effects company, ILM, achieved the impossible with the groundbreaking digital effects of Jurassic Park, where George saw the potential. Inspired, he began writing the script in his household, though lacking any sleep due to his daughter being sick all that night.
Today is my first day of writing the new Star Wars series. My oldest daughter was sick all night. I got no sleep whatsoever. All I need is an idea.
His plan stemmed from his old notes he wrote when he was planning the original Star Wars and explaining the backstory of all the characters before the events of Episode 4. Afterwards, pre-production began with a ton of concept art and production craftsmen, some of which have been around since the original trilogy, from Ralph McQuarrie and even Oscar winner of the original film's production design, Roger Christian. ILM would of course handle all the visual effects, and Ben Burtt would return to sound mix the film. Production began in Britain on the sound stages in June 1997, with the first scene shot featuring Maul and Sidious on the balcony.
You have been well trained, my young apprentice. They will be no match for you.
Production then moved to the beautiful castle structures of Italy to film the Queen's Palace, and then returning to Tunisia where the original film was shot, and suffered the same weather problems. The storm destroyed about 75% of the set on location, but not panicking, digital technology would fix this later in post-production, despite the production moving quick to restore the sets.
This is what digital technology is for, it's a tool.
With all that going on, I gotta admit the production design and cinematography are fantastic in Episode 1. While some say there's too much CGI, you gotta remember that this is arguably the most practical of the trilogy, with real sets and locations. A lot of the desert looks more impressive here than in A New Hope, and the shots of the palace location are honestly pretty stunning. Now, while CGI is used a ton, there is still a continuing use of the in-camera effects from models and miniatures. Hell, some spaceships still use the old techniques of the original trilogy. So while Lucas did rely on digital technology, he still found a balance to use real effects as much as possible. But the digital push was used of the film's major action scenes, mainly in the iconic pod race scene, which is one of the highlights of the film for me, and still holds up 25 years later. The details in the CG models, the character designs, the setup, the fucking sound effects, This scene fucking rocked, and it gets the blood pumping, especially if you grew up with NASCAR races like I did, and every time I see it on the big screen, it's louder than life. It's also cool to see a few nostalgic Easter eggs in there, like the Tusken Raiders shooting the races, Aaron Singh makes a cameo, and so does Jabba the Hutt. Sure, he's CGI, but he still looks great to see here. Hell, he looks better than he did in the special edition. The pod race was one of the biggest scenes to work on for the production and took years to pull off, and it delivered, because outside of the scene itself, it made for some fantastic video games, from the arcade, the Game Boy, and the more favorable consoles at the time with Star Wars Racer for the Nintendo 64, at the tail end of the console's life, before the next gen hit the shelves the following year. To me, pod racing is something in Star Wars that still needs more attention, and I'm surprised a spin-off movie about the sport has yet to be utilized. Like, give it to the Fast and Furious team, Lucasfilm, it'd be right up their alley. But if not, this scene is one of the best parts of the movie, and everything at play works in its sound, special effects, and even the music. Speaking of... John Williams returns to the prequel trilogy with Episode 1's score being a massive banging start. If there's one thing everyone agrees on is that the score to the prequels is absolutely brilliant. And for me personally, this is one of the best scores in the entire series. I remember even picking up the soundtrack on CD as soon as it was released just to listen to the amazing tracks John created. You of course get the iconic Star Wars themes from the original trilogy sprinkled in there, from the opening crawl to the end credits, but the score does manage to be both new and still keep to the tone of Star Wars. Many kids mostly know these themes from the first LEGO Star Wars game, but that shows how fantastic these scores are, especially Episode 1. And there are some great new themes, such as Anakin's theme for example, which relies on a lot of childhood innocence with a dash of something dark that is to come with the Imperial March snuck in a few times. I also really love the Trade Federation theme, which is sort of the new Imperial March in of itself. As well, Jar Jar's theme is also fun, acting as our comedic timing to the character's bumbling antics. But of course, the main theme of the movie and the prequels itself is the iconic music of the final battle, which I'll savor when we get to it. The soundtrack, much like the rest of the series, is widely available and worth listening to on its own, and I'd highly recommend it with the rest of the huge amounts of merchandise on this film. Which, like I said before, this movie might have gone a little overboard on. I remember the merchandising phenomenon well, and my parents actually took effort to get as much Phantom Menace material as humanly possible. It felt like everyone got on the hype for this, from magazines, video games, board games, party favors, fast food merch. There was no stopping the craze Episode 1 in the summer of '99. I myself at the time collected, and still own, the amazing toy line by Hasbro, which bought out Kenner in the late 90s. I even own the Comtech that makes your figures talk. Sure, it was a cheap gimmick, but it was a cool novelty at the time, especially given the fact that the figures came with frickin' stands. But man, my family bought into the hype. We practically bought everything we could. Foam shooters, the book on tape, the lightsabers, of course. I mean, for Christ's sakes, there was 11 Taco Bell character collector's cups made, not counting the additional 4 made for the original trilogy, which I am a proud owner of. Tastes like carbonated symbolism and poetry.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Even LEGO Star Wars. There was just no stopping how crazy this was. I can't even do it justice.
And nobody should sleep until Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, comes out.
Somebody's gotta tell him.
Which unfortunately meant the movie could not deliver everything audiences wanted. As much as I praise this movie, I will admit, compared to the original trilogy, it's not perfect, and I do have some problems with it. In fact, some of them, as of writing, I had to scratch given my opinion flip-flopped for the last 25 years. Things like Jake Lloyd's acting or Jar Jar being annoying, of course I will not make a flaw in the film, given, like I said, my opinion has changed on. But I will admit, there's a few things to pick apart. Well, I guess this is a segment I like to call on my show, Trailer Fanfiction. You know that feeling when you create a preconception of what a movie's gonna end up being like when you see the trailers and promotional spots? Well, I think it's time we utilize that and put it into some sort of writing form in rewriting Episode 1 in how I thought the movie was gonna play out. I've held on to these notes for close to 25 years since the movie came out, and I figured I could finally present them in a way that might either be better than the film, medium, or worse. The rules are followed though. You have to utilize what is presented in the film's trailers. Meaning you can't just go and rewrite the entire story from scratch. I've seen a ton of people do this with other versions of rewriting the prequels, but this is me limiting myself and challenging my mind to create a story that might be better with the material presented before the film came out. It's another thing that a lot of people have done since the dawn of time with any franchise, and sometimes we actually see ideas that present better than what the films we ultimately got were. And with The Phantom Menace, I will admit that the majority of the movie is okay and presentable in terms of pacing, story, and plot, but there is some stuff that I would tweak in to kind of make it a tad better. something that unfortunately George Lucas did not have in writing Episode 1. Namely, in the introduction of Anakin Skywalker. And this is something I figured could have helped the story a lot better, is if you're going to make Anakin the Chosen One and say how powerful he is, just start him off as a baby. I will admit, much like everyone else, that we should have seen Anakin do more with the Force to show his potential as the supposed Chosen One that the film pushes, and maybe even see him already as a young Jedi apprentice. I remember as a kid with the trailer thinking the movie would open on Tatooine and see Darth Maul try to take a young baby Anakin from his family, and his father would defend him with a lightsaber, as the baby is taken to the Jedi Temple as sort of a prologue to the likes of mythic archetypes like Moses, or in a way, Rogue One started, as we see a young Anakin with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon from the start. Of course, this fanfiction did not happen, and what we got was what we got. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering about my opinion on the title of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Well, to make it short, I never really had a problem with it. It felt like a perfect title for a prequel. Though, to be fair, I expect the Phantom Menace to actually be Dennis behind that cloak. The Phantom Menace! The Phantom Menace! Come on, let's go prank Mr. Wilson. I'll also admit that Darth Maul shouldn't have been killed at the end of the movie and saved as an ongoing villain before Vader came into being. Hell, imagine seeing Anakin seeing the death of Qui-Gon and motivating his anger to someday hunt down Darth Maul. There's the start of his path to the dark side right then and there. Now again, I know Maul returns in the Clone Wars, but it's such a missed opportunity to see him encounter Anakin and Skywalker's need to avenge Qui-Gon's death. I don't know why we've been deprived of a fight between Maul and Darth Vader for so long, but needless to say, the fans would eat that shit up. Especially in a Darth Maul movie. What I'm doing here is mostly just nitpicking at script decisions that would have made the film a little stronger. I also do have a minor problem with the current releases of the film. Much like the special editions, we are once again deprived of the theatrical cut of the movie, except on the widescreen VHS and Japanese Laserdisc, which, funny enough, was one of the last major Laserdiscs ever released. Where on the current releases, about 20 minutes of additional material was added mostly in the pod race and replacing Puppet Yoda with CG Yoda. Honestly, while they changed this to be more consistent, it takes away all the hard work that the late Stuart Freeborn and Frank Oz did to reunite and puppeteer this amazing character once again. On top of that, whenever I watch this movie, I can't help but feel like the film feels too familiar in the plot. I mean, think about it. A peaceful planet with a newly appointed queen is invaded and captured by an imperialist faction who wants to use the planet's resources, escape into space with some reluctant heroes, crashes on a desert planet to discover an all-powerful force, only to come back to her planet to liberate it from the evil faction. Now, if that plot sounds eerily familiar, you might be thinking, much like The Force Awakens, that this movie is ripping off the plot of the original Star Wars, right? Really? You think this is ripping off this? No, you idiots! This movie's ripping off the plot of Spaceballs!
Spaceballs? Oh shit. There goes the planet.
Yeah, I'm surprised nobody really brings this up. The Phantom Menace, in a way, is a more serious take on the plot of Mel Brooks' Spaceballs.
What the hell am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie?
Now, full disclosure, I fucking love Spaceballs. It's one of my favorite comedies of all time, and one of Mel Brooks' best movies, especially given George Lucas gave it his blessing. But why make the parody of your own creation the center plot of your prequel movie? Did you really think no one would notice? I'm not really mad, but I think in of itself is a funny comparison.
What's with you, man? Come on!
But if there's one thing this movie kinda has a really hard time doing, it's reestablishing the Force. If there's one thing that the film, after 25 years, I still can't get behind, it's of course the most controversial part of the film,
midichlorians.
Tell me about midichlorians.
Well, that's just microscopic bacteria in your bloodstream called midichlorians.
Look, if you're not going to take this seriously, I'm out.
George? The fuck are you doing, man? This is where, in my opinion, the divide of fans and entitlements began for Star Wars.
Order!
The scene that ultimately changes how most saw the ways of the Force. What was considered sort of a Japanese Zen thing that only those who trained hard to believe could obtain, inspiring the imagination of millions to try and use the Force with their mind, is completely contradicted when Lucas decided to give the Force a scientific explanation that makes the believability less believable.
Takes it from that into like some crap that you got from your mom. Like a bunch of nonsense.
It was so disappointing when the new Star Wars came out and he basically just ruined the first three because the Force wasn't actually the Force. It was something in your bloodstream, and it wasn't this whole cool Japanese Zen thing that it was supposed to be.
You have midichlorians, you don't. You will never be a Jedi no matter how hard you try. Oh, thanks, George.
I can understand what Lucas was trying to do, but what he's basically done is turn the Force into freaking Ki!
Wait, you know about Ki?
Now, it is confirmed that Lucas is a weeb for Japanese media from Akira Kurosawa films that inspired Star Wars, hell, the Samurai are Jedi for God's sakes, and his love for the likes of anime, with Akira being one of his personal favorites.
The thing that attracted me to it, it has a slight anime feel to it, and I'm very interested in anime, and I was really interested in moving into a kind of animation that was bridging that transition between traditional animation and anime.
However, something tells me that during the writing process, he must have caught some of the ocean dub of a very popular anime series that was just starting to be televised in North America.
The reading is off the chart. Over 20,000.
Even Master Yoda doesn't have a midichlorian count that high.
No Jedi has.
It's over 9,000! What, 9,000?
Yeah, you can't convince me otherwise. George Lucas was probably watching Dragon Ball Z on television and saw the Scouters and thought the Force should have power levels. It might have been a coincidence, but the Force feels a little less magical with this addition. It makes Star Wars feel less like sci-fi or science fantasy and more like Scientology.
All this red brain! Magic cannot harm a Scientologist!
In fact, I'm not convinced Lucas came up with this. My guess is because of lack of sleep, Lucas was writing this part of the movie late at night, and then this happened.
It's like a real luxury, actually. All I need is an idea.
Stick your tongue in Howard's butthole. I'll put Jar Jar on the back. I'll make him stick his tongue in there. Oh, hello. Howard the Duck 3D! Oh, what's this? Oh, Anakin Skywalker has midichlorians. Oh, okay, I'll put that in the cut. P.S. Tell Steven to put Tom Cruise in Minority Report. I'm sure that guy's nice.
Maybe that's a stretch, but it somewhat makes sense. Unlike the critical reception to this movie that was unmerciful. It's no secret or big revelation that this movie's hype basically killed it on the spot come release. The early critical reception for many felt like a sense of denial, with fans trying to conceal their disappointment, with radio hosts like Howard Stern holding back his opinions.
Yeah, meanwhile, everybody's reviewing it. Everyone's giving out the whole plot of the movie. The movie technically is great.
It's beautiful to
Beautiful to look at.
Beautiful.
You know, I think Star Wars fans are going to be disappointed. I'll tell you the criticism. The film is filled with puppets.
Yes.
And Liam Neeson is talking to puppets, and then finally when people talk, the puppets interrupt them every minute, and the puppets and the puppets and the puppets, and you can't even understand the puppets. I thought the movie was going to be the incredible saga of Darth Vader. Instead, it is just one endless battle scene after another, and puppets fighting other puppets, and it just wasn't well thought out.
Yeah. But as the dust settled and the damage was done, despite many coming out loving it, the hate for this movie grew and grew over the coming months. And come the turn of the century, it became an unbearable trend to dunk and destroy Episode 1, mostly in the realms of toxic behavior, for which, again, I will backtrack. It was kind of disgusting how bad it got, even down to a documentary being created called The People vs. George Lucas, which can be viewed as an interesting piece, but over time has become a tad outdated and at times hard to watch.
Kids like Jar Jar. Why? What about the Ewoks? Hey, they were rubbish. Jar Jar Binks makes the Ewoks look like fucking Shaft.
I had 3PO really railing on Jar Jar. Then I heard notes came back from George saying, no, you should treat him like the fans do.
He won't give in to what the fans want.
People like you make me sick. What's wrong with you?
But unfortunately, I would feel a tad ignorant in the history of this film if I did not bring up the reviews that became the driving vocal point of opinions on Episode 1. That being...
Yeah, it's me, you fuck.
In 2009, 10 years after the release of Episode 1, came the infamous Mr. Plinkett review by Red Letter Media, which not only discussed the film and can be considered the first mainstream video essay of any movie on YouTube, but became the face of the trilogy as a whole, making it a punching bag for years on end for the franchise.
Someone told me to go see that guy, Red Edit or whatever. It's the funniest thing I've seen on YouTube. Is the guy destroying the Phantom Menace.
Oh, really?
It's a fucking 1 hour review.
Didn't like Jar Jar Binks?
He didn't even go after Jar Jar that much. He just kept calling him a cartoon rabbit.
George Lucas finished the script in one draft. Like, turned it in, and they decided to go with it.
Changes the whole series. It makes you hate it.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, some say these reviews are what finally drove Lucas to sell the franchise off. However, my opinions on the Plinkett reviews are this. They're very satirical takes. These reviews are not meant to be taken seriously as a course of film criticism. At the time they came out, yeah, they were considered sort of a dissection of the movies, but the main reason is being a lack of research to a degree, and the sheer over-the-top skits, which the character of Plinkett is meant to be as a sick, demented monster, and is intended to be so over-the-top, it's hilarious.
I'll do anything, just let me go.
Quiet, I'm making my YouTube Star Wars review.
Star Wars!
Personally, his takes way too seriously as fact, and it undermined the good the prequels had. But I'm not gonna lie, to this day, despite me not really paying attention to his critiques, I still think these reviews are fucking hilarious and are still worth watching. But again, look at them as non-serious opinions.
Oh my god! What's wrong with your face?
But those reviews don't stop me from still enjoying the many positives I have with this film. Arguably in the most iconic moment in the movie, no matter what you have to say about the choreography of this scene, no matter what you have to say about the logic and flaws of it all, and why Obi-Wan didn't speedrun towards him like they did before, do that supersonic thing from the beginning of the movie, I'm sorry, this scene is fucking awesome! Hell yeah! I saved the best for last, with the best part of the whole movie and one of the most iconic moments of the Star Wars saga, with the three-way duel of the fates between Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi against the sinister Darth Maul. Holy shit, what can I say? This fight is fucking phenomenal, making it onto my top 10 sword fights, tied with the Bespin duel in The Empire Strikes Back. It's the reason why I went back to see this movie 5 times as a kid in cinemas, why I wore out my full-screen VHS tape watching it over and over again, and why, come the DVD, I scoured every frame and behind-the-scenes material. Simply put it, this fight made me want to fully wield a lightsaber to its full potential. Yeah, sure, I loved recreating the fights with the original trilogy, but this one just upped the stakes in what was possible with the weapon of the Jedi Knight. And credit has to go to so many people involved in this incredible sword fight. For one, Roger Christian's production design and the cinematography. The sets for the fight look incredible, from the docking bay, the power bridges, the ray shield halls, to the engine room with the bottomless pit. The fight shows so many obstacles for our heroes and villain to watch out for, not to mention the lightsaber props. The swords this time around were crafted with different looks in the hilt to reflect each combatant, though all had the red activation buttons for some reason, and some show to reflect the character's evolution, such as Obi-Wan's. In the original trilogy, the blades were mostly made from wooden dowels, which was easily splintered. So, for the prequels, new techniques in making long-lasting blades were tested per film. For episode 1 and 2, the blades were made from metal piping and covered in reflective tape in either bright orange or green for blue or green screen elements, so the lighting could better track the blade in post-production. The only issue is the actors and stunt team were hitting each other so hard that the blades were known to bend pretty quickly and had to constantly be switched out and replaced.
It's a Ewan McGregor lightsaber. We had to go through one fight. We're gonna have to get stronger ones made. They don't make lightsabers like they used to.
The next set of props have to be given to the actors. While Ray Park was an expert stuntman and martial artist who actually gave the combatants actual fears of injury from him, both Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson made it their mission to do all they could themselves on camera. Liam Neeson actually having previous experiences doing traditional sword fights in his career, from Excalibur to the amazing sword skills in dueling Tim Roth and Rob Roy. So he had a knack for stage combat that allowed him to get into the choreography quite easily. But it was Ewan McGregor who was probably the least experienced, but was willing to take on the challenge with a lot of enthusiasm. And by the end of the trilogy, and even now, he could still pick up a lightsaber with ease, and has since become a true master, especially with the twirl, which he made iconic in the movie. Trust me when I say it took me forever to perfect twirling a lightsaber. But one of the most important faces of the prequel that made these fights incredible was stunt coordinator Nick Gillard. At this point, Bob Anderson was unavailable due to his commitment on other films from The Mask of Zorro and the Lord of the Rings trilogy, so Lucas wanted to look for a faster and more energized version of the fights from the original trilogy, turned to Nick Gillard, who was just getting into stunts and fights in the industry, to give the saber duels more panache and style that would make the Prime of the Jedi iconic, and Nick succeeded on that for all 3 films, marking the staple of peak lightsaber duels of the franchise that since have yet to be surpassed. He and his team spent almost 2 years creating the fights for episode 1, and the hard work looks spectacular every time I watch it. I will never forget seeing that one continuous shot of Ewan McGregor and Ray Park's legit speed and moves in their final duel, with this move being the most iconic. Damn, that's hardcore. And seeing Obi-Wan split that saber in half as it still functions? God, that's awesome. You felt his quick need for vengeance there. But the fight is nothing without the music, with John Williams kicking into high gear with the London Symphony Orchestra blasting the film's main theme at full force. Arguably one of the Master's magnum opuses, Duel of the Fates as a track is the pinnacle of final battle music for any major action movie. It's a masterpiece by all accounts, with an incredible beat, pace, and chilling choir. No matter how you look at it, this fight made the movie for everyone involved, and in the film's reception as one of the greatest sword fights ever put to the silver screen. It's just that fucking awesome!
Yeah, you're right!
I am?
Yeah, the fight scene's actually really cool.
Huh. I guess we finally agree on something. Does that mean the movie's finally good for you guys?
I got Mickey Mouse here to my fucking
You might might be shocked that I'm not following the clout that most have had on this one, but overall, Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace not only is the best of the prequel trilogy, but it's one of the best of the series. Yeah, it's not perfect and has a few issues overall, but from its practical sets and effects, still impressive visual effects for the time, an incredible score, and some fantastic characters, comedy and action scenes with one of the best fights of all of cinema, it to me holds up 25 years later since I saw it in 1999, giving it an overall solid 9 out of 10. It's a film that over time has found its place with fans and myself, and I hope it continues that trend, making its hype back in the day that wasn't really well respected pay off immensely today.
We're coming up on Jupiter now. I can clearly see that it's surrounded by Star Destroyers.
Vader is on that planet.
Ah, great. Just great. That makes things a hell of a lot easier now, doesn't it? Plus, they spot us!
We have to make a path for the Republic fleet to land!
This bucket of bullets still has a few tricks left in it. Hang on!
Why do you keep doing that?
Didn't you hear it said buckle your seatbelts? Ah, crap! We have more fighters on our tail. Go take care of them, Timmy. Go on the auto turrets.
Second leader, this is Nintendo leader standing by. We are starting our assault on the fleet. Get your asses down to the planet.
Copy that, Scrappy. Get those fighters off our back.
Got it. All right, Nintendo Squadron, let's fuck shit up.
All right, boys.
Commodore, it's the Republic fleet. They found us out.
Are you blind? Watch every single fighter. Don't let them get past the blockade.
Land right by that plate near the palace!
You don't have to shout.
Land right by that clay near the palace. Much better. That's good. Get on that.
Stay with me.
Hold off enemy forces into the palace and find the princess.
Come on, Timmy!
Incoming! Friendly fire! Hold this position!
Cover me!
Keep up the assault! Watch that lightsaber!
I haven't had this much trouble shooting down ships to play Space Invaders.
Stay close, boys.
You've got him.
We'll handle this.
You guys take the long way. Keep the princess guarded.
Find another way around.
I've been waiting for you, Jack Buchanan. We meet again at last.
The circle is now complete. When I left you on the battlefield, I was but the learner of your skills. Now I am the master. At last we will have revenge.
A duel of fates, huh? Kinda like the sound of that. In that case... hit it, Johnny! Shut them!
The fucker shields are down. Slippy, take out those generators. Don't give me a fucking excuses, Toad Breath. You got what, Samus? Lucky bastard.
Throne room should be secured by now. What's going on? Incoming fighters! Take them out!
I can't check them off! Alright? There's too many of them!
What in tarnation hell was that?
A brave but valiant effort was You have made a true armor, Jedi. But you are nothing more than an earth pest. Only dreams can come true for the Force. But you are no good. You are a little fool. George Lucas find you embarrassment. Beg for your last words of mercy.
Say it, asshole.
Poor choice of words. I sense great fear in you, Jack. Your hate, your anger, but you don't use them. Your rage unbalanced you, and is not the Jedi way, is it?
You are mistaken, Darth Vader. I am no Jedi.
Then strike me down as you must. Only your hatred can truly destroy me.
I won't be like you. There's something I realized reviewing episode 1. It's really hard to escape how much this movie was hated for 25 years, and even with my own review, I could never figure out the core reason for it. I mean, when you really think about it, out of all the prequels, Episode 1 is the one that gets the most reevaluation left and right, good or bad. And that's what makes it fascinating as one of the most crucial entries of the series. The film's opinion continues to evolve. As a kid, I saw The Phantom Menace a total of 5 times in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the summer of 1999. Hey, maybe this guy was in the theater with me.
Get out of my popcorn jar!
But from the Mayfair Mall to the Ultra Screen, I went to it over and over again. Not because I was like most fans who wanted to pick it apart, but because it was the new Star Wars movie for my generation and aimed at kids like me to enjoy and be entertained by. Come 2012, before Disney, The Phantom Menace was re-released in 3D to cash in on the 3D craze post-Avatar. Needless to say, I went into the midnight show at the Ultra AVX in Toronto to recapture the enjoyment I had in '99. With little payoff. 1 was due to the Plinkett review still fresh in my head as I saw it, and 2, the theater was barely packed.
I clapped when I saw it.
It was empty and made me think to some extent that the craze of Star Wars was beginning to die off. Until about 6 months later when the mouse got a hold of it. But last year, something really interesting happened. To celebrate the film's 25th anniversary, Lucasfilm re-released Episode 1 in cinemas again. This was in the now post-sequel trilogy era, and going back to it, taking Honey Bear with me, mind you, I was shocked to see the theaters packed for this release. A total difference than what was seen 12 years prior. Not only that, it was #1 at the box office, something that wasn't seen since its original run. It showed how over the passage of time, these opinions have changed on not just the film, but the prequels as a whole. I felt like that 7-year-old kid in the summer of '99 again, and it was a wonderful feeling. And it feels good that I can be more open in loving this film, and so do the fans and the kids of my generation who grew up with it, who are now adults, maybe have kids of their own, and want to show them these movies in a more positive light for those who made it, and to a new generation. Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace has overall had quite the history, and might even be one of the most fascinating of the series that continues to adapt, evolve, and become a much more positive notion than it was 25 years ago. It shows that in the depths of the dark side of the Force, that eventually the light side will find a way to purify and show the true beauty and value of things within. But something else I need to finally mention about Episode 1 that I am the most thankful for, without the film and its hype, I don't think I'd be fully on the path I'm on today. Yeah, sure, the year prior, visiting Universal Studios may have finally been that window of opportunity in how to do it, but come the hype of Episode 1, many shows were airing Star Wars-esque episodes to boost the anticipation. One of these shows that aired on Nick Jr. was, of all things, Muppet Babies, who had a lot of permissions to use Lucasfilm IP clips, especially Star Wars. The episode in question, Gonzo's Video Show, shows the Muppets gifted an 8mm trigger camera in which they make their own movies, with Gonzo directing a shot-for-shot remake of A New Hope. Watching this episode and seeing the hype for Episode 1 finally surged something in me, for which I picked up my parents' Video 8 camera, grabbed my neighborhood friends, and made my first movie simply titled Star Wars Episode 1. It's debatable if I'll ever publicly release this fully, but what you're seeing briefly is my first movie, the first Big Jack film ever made, and it actually remakes the movie before the movie is even out. It was simply an improv playtime with my neighborhood friends, even casting my sister as Jabba the Hutt. I really was a little shit back then. And we just created the movie how we thought it would be, with my main goal to make the Darth Maul fight, although at the time we called him Darth Mule.
Darth Mule!
What the hell was that?
As seen in the trailers at the time. Hell, we even called Qui-Gon Jinn Quinjon Jinn. What the hell was wrong with us? Again, I don't even know if I'll ever release this. It needs massive edits to at least be presentable. But my point is, look how this gave me this. How this gave us all of this. Even if you love or hate Episode 1, look what it sparked for a whole generation of Star Wars fans, writers, directors, creators, filmmakers, and overall storytellers. Like I said with the original trilogy, Star Wars is all about imagination and creativity, and with the prequels, it expands and evolves that into the depths of world building and deeper storytelling, and something we will see over time that the prequels will continue to thrive on, and explore with episodes 2 and 3. For the saga is far from over.
Then you have truly failed.
Way.
Falcon to fuckface, pick up!
Jack here.
You okay, kid?
I got tased pretty bad, bro. Where's the princess?
We've got her. Our boys have captured the command post. Break out the champagne then. Where's Rice Duke at?
Master!
It's too late. It's too late.
No! Bro, come on, we're good.
Jack promised me. We'll review the rest of the prequels.
Yes, Master.
They're the key to this conflict. You will bring balance to this saga.
Yes. No. No! No! Master! Master! Master!
Dude, you don't probably come back as a Force Ghost, right?
Yeah, that's pretty obvious. I mean, you are the Obi-Wan of the series.
Yeah, makes sense.
Back to base. Battle is won. But we lost one of our own.
So that's it. The Phantom Menace has been defeated.
No. I sense the worst is yet to come.